Benintendi has given the Red Sox back the lead. A home run derby is broken out here in the bottom of the third in Cleveland. This place is wild right now, and the Indians who win game. That win on Thursday night, the first in the postseason for the Indians since 2007. And it staked them to a 1-0 lead in this best-of-5 over the Boston Red Sox. This afternoon's 2016 American League Division Series coverage on TBS is presented by T-Mobile. Game 2 between the Red Sox and the Indians coming up moments from now here on TBS. Well, you know all the facts and figures about the Cleveland Indians and about the long wait for a World Series championship. The last time it happened was 1948 when they beat the Boston Braves in the World Series. Had a couple opportunities in the 90s that went by the board, and today the Indians hoping to gain some inspiration from the guy who led the Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA championship this past spring. I wonder who that might be. Here's Indians PA man Bob Tayak.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the NBA Finals MVP, LeBron James, and the 2016 World Champion, Cleveland Cavaliers.
You guys are unbelievable. Cleveland, let me hear you. On behalf of myself and my teammates right here, we're here for these guys over here. Just like you guys were behind our back through our championship run, we all have to rally together for their championship run tonight for Game 2. Always believe something, Cleveland. It's always us against the world. Always us against the world. Cleveland against the world. Let's go! Turn down the wood!
And on that note, we welcome you to Game 2 of this best-of-5 here on TBS. I'm Ernie Johnson. This is Ron Darling. Got a great pitching matchup to talk about, and we'll do that with Ron in just a minute. But let's start with Cal Ripken Jr., who's also got the best seat in the house down there at dugout level, and talk about Game 1 of this series, which was living proof, Iron Man, that it's not always the biggest name who has the biggest impact.
Yes, it's not always the guy to hit third and fourth that makes the big contribution in these playoffs. And last night it was Indians catcher Roberto Perez. He contributed with his bat, his glove, and his legs right out of the chute in the first inning. Here's his glove, a nice pick and a nice tag at home plate. What a wonderful play that was reversed into an out. Then he comes up with the bat, goes opposite field, long home run. And then this is the most unlikely play. He tags up in first on a long ball at left field, and he makes a weird slide to get in there. And then, just to put icing on the cake, in the end, he blocks the ball right here, uses his hustle, comes up, picks his glove up, and makes the tag. All in all, one heck of a game behind the plate for Roberto Perez.
The guy who hit 183 in the regular season in limited playing time, and man alive, did he come up big last night. Now, talk about the pitching matchup in Game 2. Cy Young Award winners on each side. You've got a guy making his first postseason start. You've got another guy who has never won a postseason start. That's David Price. Let's start there, Ronnie.
Well, wait a minute. I'm following LeBron James and Cal Ripken. Is that where you're telling me that I've got to go?
It flows seamlessly.
Well, David Price, when you think of him, 4 different teams in the postseason, first starting pitcher to ever do that. He has never won a game as a starting pitcher in the postseason. But this is why he can do it. He's always pitched well against the Indians. 10-2 career and 5-0 here in Progressive Field. And what can you say about Kluber? The only problem with Kluber, he hasn't pitched in 10 days. We don't know if his health is 100%. If it is, he's one of the best right-handed pitchers in all of baseball.
Had a little quad injury there late in the season, but he gets the ball tonight, and he is their ace. It is a Friday afternoon in Cleveland. It's October. It's 80 degrees. Are you kidding me? Game 2, first pitch, coming up next.
TBS is brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company and the exhilarating new Lincoln MKZ. By Samsung Pay. Turn your phone into your wallet. By Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats. And by Charles Schwab.
Just about ready to go here, game 2 of the ALDS. Quickly, the batting order for the Boston Red Sox. Pedroia, Holt, Betts, Ortiz, Hanley Ramirez in the 5 hole. Then it's Bogarts that moved Benintendi up from the 9 hole to the 7 hole. Sandy Leon hits 8th again, but Jackie Bradley, who took the collar last night, in the 9 spot against Corey Kluber.
Well, Cal spent the open talking about Roberto Hernandez. Corey Kluber has started his last 14 games with Perez behind the plate. He's 9-1 with a 2.5 ERA.
Misses with the first delivery to Dustin Pedroia, who was 1 for 5 in the opener. 3 strikeouts, including the game ender. And he was hot last night, Ron, but to his credit, after the game, you know, in an interview, he just said, look, you know what? He was talking to Sam Ryan, as a matter of fact, and said, you know, I've looked at it. My bad. I need to apologize.
Well, it's one of the reasons that Pedroia is admired, not only by his teammates, but everyone around the game, because he is a stand-up guy. It's just in the heat of passion, you don't want to be called out on the check swing. He did go too far.
The guy he went after was Phil Cuzzy, who made the call at first base and who was behind the plate today.
Well, I think that's probably the reason why he wanted to apologize.
I knew you'd cut to that, Chase.
You want to make right before he starts calling pitches on you.
Late afternoon here, and it's, you know, 4:35 or so, and you see the sun and the shadows. And Cal, if you're at the plate right now, I know there's nothing in between the mound and the plate. But how do you think this is playing with hitters?
You know, it's difficult to actually watch on TV. Different lighting conditions. So just imagine, it's not the absolute worst where the sun goes right over the mound. So the pitcher is standing in light and you are in dark because you need to really critically pick the ball up. But it's pretty bad. You got those light stripes in there, light all the way in the background, dark where you are. It's difficult for the hitters to see.
And I'll tell you one thing. Take a look at the guy in right field, Lonnie Chisenhall. Even in between pitches, saw him with his hand up trying to shield his eyes because that sun is coming right through the stands behind home plate. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Dustin Pedroia. High chopper. 1 down. Let's get our first report from Sam Ryan. Sam.
Well, Ernie, earlier you were talking about Corey Kluber and that mild right quad strain. Missed 10 days of rest he's had, basically. Hasn't pitched since September 26th, but wasn't totally shut down. Pitching coach Mickey Callaway told me they wanted to keep the arm going, so 5 days of playing catch, limited action on the quad. Then Sunday, a 20-pitch bullpen session. What they did on Tuesday, though, 20 pitches. They sat him for 5 minutes. They wanted to see how the quad would react, to see if it tightened up on him. Then he got back up another 20 pitches for that 40-pitch bullpen session. Said the quad was fine overall. His arm feels great. It's the most rest he's had all season, guys.
18-game winner, ERA of 3.14. Thank you, Sam. And he's worked 215 innings, among the league leaders in the American League.
Well, he's had over 600 innings the last 3 seasons, so he's really been worked. The issue on a leg injury for a pitcher sometimes doesn't reveal itself when you're pitching. It's when you have to be an athlete, jump off the mound to make a play, cover first base, back up a base. Those are the things that can sometimes activate that quad.
And wouldn't you know, the first batter, Pedroia, makes him field his position, and he did. 3 balls and no strikes to Brock Holt, who homered in game 1. There's a strike. There were a boatload of strikeouts in that game last night, folks. Combined, there were 26.
Did you have to remind me that I did the Open and talked about them not striking out so much? And then Pedroia gets 3 himself last night.
Well hit to right, base hit. Brock Holt aboard with 1 down here in the first. The teams combined for 26. Boston pitching struck out 12. Indians pitching struck out 14. And Betts was the only, Brock Holt was the only starter who didn't strike out.
4 hits now in the first 2 games for Brock Holt. As last night's starter, Trevor Bauer, who was around for 4 2/3.
Just shy of being around long enough to earn a victory in that one. That went to Andrew Miller. Talk about his availability as we go on here, as he worked 2 innings through 40 pitches in the opener.
Well, Kluber has been their ace for the last 3 or 4 years. He knows what his job is to do tonight after both Miller and Shaw and Allen went extended pitches. His job is to go 7+ at least in this ball game.
Mookie Betts waiting at the plate, fouls it away.
You know, you talk to different hitters about what it's the most difficult to see at this different time. I used to always think that it was the breaking ball because you had to track it more in depth. You know, Coco Crisp, I found someone to agree with me today, but other people think it's the fastball, that it's just not enough time to see it, and you really need to track fastball. So I don't know what to tell you. I think the breaking ball, for me personally, was much harder to track in this lighting.
1 ball, 1 strike. And Kluber ahead, a ball and 2 strikes. He got Pedroia to tap back to him. Brock Holt singled to right. And Betts, who went hitless in the opener, but was number 2 in the American League in the regular season, waits on a 1-2. This could be 2. And it is. Great play by Jason Kipnis. Decided to take it himself and made the throw to first. We head to the bottom half. All right, batting order for the Cleveland Indians here in Game 2. Rajai Davis with the left-hander starting. Gets the start in center field and hits lead off. Then it's Jason Kipnis. Francisco Lindor in the 3-hole. A cleanup hitter is Mike Napoli. And then it's Santana Ramirez. Brandon Guyer gets the start in left. Tonight, Lonnie Chisenhall hits 8th, and Roberto Perez, the headline maker from Game 1, bats 9th.
Well, David Price's outstanding career, 121 wins, 65 losses. That's 56 games over 500. Another 17 wins this year. We know his numbers in the postseason: 0-7, 5.27 ERA as a starter, but 5-0 here at Progressive Field in his career.
Rajai Davis takes a strike, 0-1. Davis did come on and pinch hit last night. Stayed in the game. 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Popped him up behind the plate. Easy play for Leon. 1 down.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen this in baseball ever. Sandy Leon did exactly what you're supposed to do on a pop-up. Once you locate it, you throw your mask away from you to get it out of the way so it doesn't factor in. Phil Cuzzy caught it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
We'll bring you the umpires in just a second. Cuzzy behind the plate. We'll introduce the entire crew to you momentarily. Here's Jason Kipnis. And here you go. Throw the mask away. Take that act on the road.
Me too.
That's America's Got Talent. Kipnis homered last night in the Indians' victory. Part of that 3-home run third inning. He and Lindor, who's in the on-deck circle, went back to back. 1 ball, 1 strike. And this has popped up behind third. Who wants it? Xander Bogaerts, 2 up and 2 down.
See defensively for Boston, Benintendi in left, Bradley Jr. in center, and Betts. Holt's getting most of the play at third base for Bogaerts. The Gold Gloves of Pedroia. Hanley Ramirez with an outstanding play last night up the bat of Coco Crisp, and Sandy Leon behind the plate.
And again, you see in this long career for Hanley Ramirez, never played first base until this season.
4 errors all season, none at Fenway Park.
Lindor takes a strike from Price. 0-1. Lindor, a .301 hitter in the regular season, has some pop as a shortstop. 15 homers, 78 runs batted in, and quickly he's behind 0-2.
I was thinking about how David Price is going to have success. He had some early success early as a reliever with Tampa Bay, but then they were always the underdog. He was then the hired gun for Detroit, the hired gun for Toronto. He's the gun here for a long time.
On the ground, on the line, long throw, and Brock Holt made a nice play. 1-2-3 inning for David Price. Look at Brock Holt. Backhand right on the line, and he threw a strike. Back here in Cleveland, top half of the second inning. There are your umpires: Phil Cuzzi, Tony Randazzo, Paul Emmel. Bill Miller is the crew chief at third. And of course, you got umpires down the lines: Vic Carapazza in left, and Brian Knight, who called the balls and strikes in game one, is on the right field line, bathed in sunlight on this late afternoon. Big Papi swings at the first pitch and fouls it away.
You know, the crew treat Bill Miller started in left field last night. Why? In a 5-game series, that puts him behind the plate in Game 5.
So right now, right field's kind of crowded. Got a couple umpires out there. You got Napoli back on the grass, Kipnis back on the grass. Got Lindor on that side.
It's called the nickel defense, Ernie.
Got Chisenhall in right field. So if you can hit a ball through this maze, then good on you. Kluber into the wind. Here it comes. Stayed upstairs, 2-1. Ortiz did what he could last night to try to get Boston back in that game. Had the double off the wall. He had to leg it out. But the Red Sox could not chase him around.
All John Farrell, the manager for the Red Sox, could talk about today. 8.9 seconds for Big Papi from home to second.
Big Papi's got little numbers off of Kluber. 4 for 16 with 2 jacks.
That's in the air. Shallow right. Chisenhall calls off Kipnis. 1 down. How about that play that Brock Holt made to end the last inning, Cal?
That was a nice backhand here. He goes back, backhands it off his left foot so he can plan off his right. That's about the longest throw you can make. Got rid of it quick enough. And Hanley over there shows a little range stretching up the line.
And here is Hanley Ramirez.
I had that about a 67-foot throw right there. That can't be right. It has to be way more than that.
There is the Iron Man.
You can see why I miscalculated right there.
Yeah, maybe 167.
Nobody told him there would be math.
I'm usually pretty good at that.
I know, with your mind, I know.
Well, no one's swinging the bat better than Hanley Ramirez, and that's a trend that he's had his entire career.
So you guys need to stop talking to me so I can pay attention over here. I'm in a dangerous area with him up.
Hey, you want us to shut you down? Okay.
The 1-1.
Looked like the first either changeup or maybe just a bad slider from Kluber, a backup slider. Opponents are batting 121 when Kluber gets 2 strikes. He's got one of the best wipeout sliders in the game. Going to the fastball.
Had a good swing on that.
Cal,
go ahead.
They keep trying to challenge him with high fastballs. It's not the way to go with Hanley.
No, you don't want to make a mistake with a breaking ball in the middle of the plate either. But he's really quick. He's under control, short to the ball. So even with 2 strikes, he doesn't cut down a heck of a lot. But that was a good swing right there.
Here comes the 1-2. Breaking pitch missed. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Kluber played his college ball at Stetson for the legendary Pete Dunne, whose final season, he's coached 38 years down there, will be the 2017 season. Pete Dunne's had Kluber, who's a Cy Young winner. He's had Jacob deGrom, who's been a Rookie of the Year.
So far, these Cleveland pitchers, when they've gotten behind Ramirez, they've tried to get him away, and they've let the ball up. That is his strength. 17 home runs. He's sitting with the ball up and out over the plate.
Three balls, 2 strikes. Here it comes. Strike 3 called. 2 down. First strikeout for Corey Kluber. Live every postseason moment with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. It's the only place to get it all. Live radio feeds, video highlights, pitch tracking, StatCast, popcorn, peanuts, and much more. Download it at Bat today. Here's Xander Bogaerts. On the ground to Lindor. That's an easy inning for Corey Kluber. 1, 2, 3. We head to the bottom of the second. Do not miss the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. Game 1 of the NLDS starting at 9 o'clock tonight on FS1. We're into Game 2 of the ALDS between the Red Sox and the Indians here at Progressive Field on TBS. Mike Napoli leads it off in the bottom half of the second. How about what's going on the other side? Yeah. Texas Rangers are down 0-2, lost the first 2 at their place. Toronto, after that emotional wild card win, rolling to a 2-0 lead in that best-of-5.
The Rangers in division series games at home, shockingly, are 1-11 now.
Watching Price, how he's attacking Napoli, starts him off the hook, comes back with a changeup. And many times it's not good to throw a changeup before you've thrown a fastball, because the hitter just doesn't have an idea of the velocity at that point. And sometimes you're right on a changeup because you have no other point of reference.
Rounded up the middle, but a nice play by Bogaerts, who throws it out.
You know, Cal, if the average fan could stand at shortstop and realize how hard that ball gets to you, it would freak him out.
Yeah, I was just thinking that myself. That ball had a charge in it, and he went over there and handled it really easy. It's difficult. I remember my dad wouldn't let me into the infield till I was about 15, and I snuck in one time without him looking, and somebody hit a line drive with my wrist, and I ran back out to the outfield.
Against left-handed pitching, Carlos Santana will drop down to 5th in the lineup. We saw him last night against the right-hander, leading off.
I'm amazed that they're using a sequence of signs, with no one on base. It kind of plays into the whole sort of paranoia about surveillance and being able to capture signs either through watching on TV all the time. That's got to be a pain to go through those sequence of signs with nobody on base. Sometimes the simpler, the better.
There's the first base hit for the Cleveland Indians. It comes off the bat of Carlos Santana with one down here in the second.
I mean, Ronnie, would you like to go through a sequence of signs?
I would not. To me, it would wreck my tempo. I would honestly, somehow, by the way I caught the ball from the catcher or by making eye contact with him, I would hopefully give him a sign of what I wanted him to call quicker. If I did go a series of signs, I'd probably use first sign, because that way it would be a little easier.
Here's Jose Ramirez, one of the main reasons the Indians find themselves where they are today, playing in the American League Division Series. A .312 average in the regular season, 7th best in the American League. Knocked in 76 runs.
Had 2 hits and was walked intentionally last night. If you listen to pundits this winter talk about the Cleveland Indians, they always said the same thing. Great young pitching. They have some real good ancillary players. Lindor is going to be a superstar, but the missing Michael Brantley is going to hurt them offensively. Ramirez made the difference in the loss of Brantley.
Versatile player defensively as well.
He swung the bat really good yesterday. All of his at-bats.
Santana with a lead at first. Price to the plate. Foul tip, 1-2.
Because of the switch hitters and the lineup and bench for Cleveland, Terry Francona has 70% favorable at bats. What does that mean? Right-hander against left-handed pitching. Right-handed pitching, left-handed hitters. 70% favorable for this Indian squad.
One ball, 2 strikes, 1 out, and a runner at first.
There's a 95 right there, the first one. At least the scoreboard had it at 95. I didn't see the flame on the TV. You keep looking at the sequence, and it doesn't take long to figure out they're using the second sign, and then they shake the first. And so I keep coming back to, if it's that simple, why don't you just put one sign down?
2 balls, 2 strikes. Tapper towards short. Brock Holt can't make the play. All hands safe. Infield hit.
Yeah, I don't think he had a play. He would have made the play even if he'd come up clean. Ramirez's speed clearly makes him come up and try to get a quicker transfer on that ball. Difficult play, but judging from this angle right here, Ramirez was down the line and probably would have beat that anyway.
Well, that brings up Brandon Guyer starting in left field today against the left-hander David Price. Guyer came over from Tampa Bay. And he's the league leader in being hit by pitches 31 times this season. 23 of those with the Rays and 8 with the Indians. Takes a strike, 0-1.
Guyer's had 14 at-bats against David Price. 4 hits, one of them a home run. You know what they call him? Nickname, the Piñata.
The 0-1. Looper over short. That's going to fall for a base hit. They're going to wave Santana around. They're at the corners, and it's 1-0.
He got jammed on this ball, pulls his hands in a little bit, is strong enough to punch it out there. Great base running on both sides. Santana reads it. Ramirez is running right up his back to get to third base. They do have a team that goes first or third. They do put the pressure on, and they are smart on the bases.
The chance for Lonnie Chisenhall, who bats with runners at first and third.
They had on the scoreboard here, make some noise. Really? Do they really need to put that up there? As loud as it gets here at Progressive Field.
A little cross up right there, Ronnie.
Yep.
We're going out to probably redo the signs.
We saw that in last night's game with the Indians. A cross up between Cody Allen and Roberto Perez. These are the kind of things that can happen. And lucky enough that Leon got some leather on it.
And they can happen with a guy on third.
Ramirez is the runner at third for Cleveland. Brandon Guyer at first. Chisenhall, who knocked in a run in the opener, at the plate. And here comes the 1-0. That's over for a strike. 1-1.
Terry Francona asked before the game why Chisenhall, the left-handed hitter. He said he takes tough at bats, but even more importantly, wanted a good outfield. Chisenhall is best right fielder for Kluber pitching.
Quick timeout right there. They might not have been on the same page with that sign. Sandy Leon calling for time to reset the signs.
Two balls and a strike.
Brandon Guyer is not a guy that usually steals. David Price, very difficult to steal on.
That ball is rifled into the corner in right, and it's a fair ball. That's going to score a run, and now it's called a home run. The original signal was fair ball, and then the right field umpire, Brian Knight, said touch them all. And that's what Chisenhall will do. An absolute bullet to right.
What do we think it hit out there?
You see, there is plexiglass in front of a camera out there. And that's exactly what it hit. When we went through the ground rules with the umpires, they said, here's one strange thing about this park. Above the line and right, there is plexiglass you can't see from any place really in the ballpark. And that's exactly what it hit. I mean, that thing got out in a split second.
A plexiglass there to protect the cameraman and make our life miserable. Good job by Brian Knight all over that call behind the plate last night with the call. I thought Chisenhall was in for his defense.
He pulled his hands in and smoked that one. Almost felt like it had a little top spin. I didn't think it was high enough to get out.
Well, the wind had nothing to do with it, but in last night's game, the balls were flying out to right field. Wind slightly blowing out there again, and with this hot weather, this has become a small park.
Plays much smaller when it's warm, for sure, Ronnie.
3 balls and no strikes to Perez.
Let's take a little air out of the Red Sox players falling behind this early.
Perez 2 for 3 last night. He had that home run in his first postseason at bat. He got on and with heads up base running advanced into scoring position and would eventually score the 5th Cleveland run in a game they won 5-4.
It's early. It's a long way to go. This is game 1 last night with a home run from Roberto. But the major league best this year when leading by 3 runs are the Cleveland Indians. 66-1.
One out here in the second, and a visit from Carl Willis, the Red Sox pitching coach.
Not much you can say to a Cy Young Award winner. He knows what's going on, knows the reality of this tough start. Really, it's to give Matt Barnes a chance to get loose. 24 pitches. This inning alone.
The big blow, a 3-run homer by Lonnie Chisenhall. A line drive into the right field corner.
Santana's ball was hit hard. Chisenhall's ball was hit very hard. But the two in between those two just found holes.
Yeah, Brandon Geyer's blooper scored a run. But Chisenhall on an absolute line to right for the 3-run homer. Top of the order again now. Rajai Davis. Fooled him 0-1.
David Price has gone at least 6 innings in all of his postseason starts. But after last night, Rick Porcello with his shortest start of this season at 4 1/3. Price is out of mercy at doing that also.
Had a good swing at that pitch. Just high enough out of his zone, but he had the bat hit out front home plate.
Well, foul.
Lonnie Chisenhall, not a home run hitter. Only 8 home runs all season long. Not one against a left-handed pitcher.
So much for that favorable matchup thing we talked about earlier, righty against lefty.
Right?
Perez leads at first, no balls and 2 strikes to Rajai Davis, who goes down swinging for out number 2. Talk about the postseason struggles of David Price. And again, he has won in the postseason, but in relief. 8 starts in his career in the postseason. 0-7. ERA of over 5.
Tough
and he's
to,
given up 4 today.
Tough to figure out. Tough to even comprehend.
Last fastball had a little hop to it from down here. Had a little life on it up.
Fouled away by Jason Kipnis, who's 0 for 1. He popped to Bogarts at short his first time.
The lighting's much more even down here now. Most of the field is in the shade. Still light on the background.
Popped him up behind third. Brock Holt makes the play. But the Indians break through in the second. Lonnie Chisenhall does the damage. A 3-run shot and scores it. Follow Bleacher Report on Instagram and get the coolest sports content before anybody else. Join millions of others and follow Bleacher Report on Instagram now. Members of the Cleveland Cavaliers here, and they came out pregame and tried to fire the place up.
You know what basketball players do when they're watching the game? Baseball? Oh man, when I was in high school, I could throw 95.
Exactly.
And when baseball guys are together at a basketball game, they're saying, oh man, and hoop, my Jimmy from 3, forget about it.
Had to make a decision between the two. And Andrew Benintendi leads it off.
Moved up in the order because of his outstanding at-bats last night. Home run and a single.
Benintendi homering in his first postseason at-bat, as did Roberto Perez. As Ruben Amaro Jr. tosses that one into the stands, and Benintendi, such an impressive kid. 6 home runs on the night last night, tying a record. Corey Kluber working with a 4-run lead and missing the corner 2-2.
There's certain hitters, when they come up, a ball makes a different sound when it leaves their bat. It's innate. You can't teach it. They just have it. And Benintendi is on his way to being one of those guys.
Ronnie, the most important thing you can do when your team has staked you to a lead like this is?
Well, I think you have to not lose sight of who you're facing. This is the Boston Red Sox. They scored 101 more runs than your team, and your team is an offensive dynamo. Stick to your game plan, continue to mix up your pitches, and go as deep as you can.
In the air to right. Chisenhall out one.
Yeah, you know, Ronnie, on the other side of that, if you're the team that falls behind, you know, sometimes I've been on teams where players come in and they start screaming, let's go, let's go, let's turn it up a notch. I never thought that worked. And if you're looking at the dugout right now, they're all over there. They're a professional team. They know they're good. They know they can hit. It's a matter of just going out there and solving it and putting hits together.
Yeah, and you get a run here, a couple there, a bloop and a blast there. All of a sudden you're in it. The Red Sox, by trailing by 3 runs this year, have 11 wins when they've trailed by 3.
We saw that last night. They were fighting back, and had an opportunity to get a tie score. So you just can't take it for granted that you get a 4-run lead that the game's over.
Sandy Leon, one of the Red Sox who homered in Game 1. He quickly falls behind. No balls and 2 strikes.
It does help when you don't have Cy Kluber out there. It helps a little more.
Yeah, the challenge is a little greater the better the pitcher on the mound, for sure.
Breaking pitch, and 37,000 here really wanted that.
It was the down and in breaking ball from Allen that was a problem for Leon last night.
Now 14 Red Sox struck out on Thursday night. That's the second here on Friday afternoon. 2 down in the 3rd.
Just has one of the wipeout sliders in baseball. You think in the National League of I'm just using right-handers now, Jake Arrieta and others, Noah Syndergaard. Well, in the American League, it's Corey Kluber and others.
I can tell you saw Len Barker out there throwing out the first pitch. He had one of those kind of breaking balls. Just seems like it would disappear when he got around home plate.
Jackie Bradley Jr. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on Thursday. Moved from the 7-hole to the 9-hole. Interesting too, wasn't it, Ronnie? Because John Farrell had talked about, you know, we're really a much better team when we get something out of the 6-7 hole in our lineup, and boy, they got nothing. They were 0 for 8 with 6 Ks last night. He shook it up a little bit tonight, with Benintendi moving up from 9th to 7th and dropping Bradley into the 9-hole.
Well, I think what some people forget is that in moving Pedroia to the 1 spot, Bogarts has been moved down to 6 instead of the 2nd hole where he batted all season long, or for a lot of the season.
Pedroia waiting on deck. And that is a strike 3 call to Jackie Bradley Jr. Another 1-2-3 inning for Corey Kluber as we head to the bottom half of the 3rd in Game 2. E-League is back starting October 21st. Catch the best in esports with E-League Season 2 on TBS every Friday. Bottom half of the 3rd, Francisco Lindor leads it off against David Price, and there's a strike. Price giving up 4 runs on 4 hits in the 2nd inning. The big blow, a 3-run homer by Lonnie Chisenhall. The 0-2 on the way to Pedroia. 1 down. Moments ago, Sam Ryan spoke with Red Sox pitching coach Carl Willis.
Carl, a coaching mound visit in the 2nd, obviously not what you had envisioned. What'd you tell David?
Well, I think he has good stuff today. And, you know, Geyer and Ramirez fought off 2 good pitches, found holes with them, and then we had the misfortune of getting into a tough spot there with Chisenhall. So his stuff's good, just sticking with the plan and executing pitches.
How much pressure is he putting on himself? Obviously, he's still looking for that first postseason win.
Well, I don't think he's putting any at all. I mean, he's a big reason we're here. He led the American League in innings pitched, won 17 games, and it's business as usual. If he goes out and executes with his stuff, he's going to give us a chance to win today.
Thanks so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks to Carl Willis. I'd like to hear your response to that question about the pressure of not having won a postseason game. Fouled behind the plate and out of play.
Well, I think that I think Carl is right. I think that David does have good stuff today. Got into a situation there where he gave up 4 straight hits, including the 3-run home run. He's got much better stuff than we saw on Sunday, our last TBS game in Fenway Park. That being said, Carl downplayed that it's in the brain of David Price in trying to win his first postseason game, but it's got to be there, and it'll always be there until it happens for him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great approach. Every time you go out, the starter should give your team a chance to win, and Price certainly does that all the way through the regular season. But this game is such a mental game where you have to get over and get over those feelings and be confident. And if it's sticking in the back of your mind, you can't execute as freely as you can without it in your mind.
A ball and 2 strikes to Mike Napoli. He bats with 1 down here in the 3rd. Oh, shattered his bat. Look out. That's a base hit into left. Let's hope nobody got hit over behind the dugout. Looks like everybody's okay, and the Indians have a base runner here in the 3rd.
Well, that's another hit inside. What happens for a pitcher as the innings mount? There's a sequence of pitches that you like to get hitters out on. And for David Price, it's always been inside. When you're a little short with your fastball at 93, 94 and not 97, 98, you will see not only a home run by Chisenhall, but now you've had 2 broken bat hits, one by Geyer and there by Napoli. So the pitch that you used for years to get outs and pop-ups and strikeouts now is producing some hits.
Carlos Santana singled his first time, scored the first Cleveland run, and takes a strike 0-1.
You know, it's not all about location. From a hitter's perspective, it's about stuff. You can spot the ball on the inside edge like we saw right there. But if you're looking in there as a hitter, you can get to that. The stuff, the extra 2 or 3 or 4 miles an hour, doesn't allow you to get to that one.
I think the problem always when you sign a big contract is you have to try to live up to it. The way the money is now, there's no living up to any contract that you would get of the size that David got. Think of his season. 8 times this year he's given up 5 or more runs as starting a game. That's something you would never see from a David Price. 30 home runs given up. That's a career high. 10 on the first pitch. That's something you'd never see. So those are things that David certainly is going to have to iron out. Here, iron out quickly.
And then you dive into those postseason numbers, not only looking for the first win, but 57 innings pitched, 37 runs allowed, no balls and 2 strikes. And Santana waves at strike 3.
It's interesting so far, Cal. David's outs have come mostly away to a lot of these hitters and not in.
Yeah, elevating the fastball a little bit, commanding the other side of the plate. The away side, and that's paint at 94 in the outside corner. That's a great pitch.
4-seam fastball, true and fast.
Here's Ramirez. Reached on an infield hit his first time in the 4-run second. It's a ball wide of the mound that Brock Holt tried to make a play on but couldn't glove. And Brandon Geyer followed with a bloop single, and Lonnie Chisenhall with a blast to right.
I agree with Carl Willis. He does have, good stuff today. He's got some pop on his fastball. He's made some really good cutters, slider types down and in. Just those two hard hit balls, especially the home run after a couple of soft hit balls, created 4 runs.
50 pitches in the books as we play in the 3rd for David Price. Runner going on a delayed steal, it looked like, by Napoli, and he's in.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Ernie. It was a delayed steal. And many times you delay steal to try to catch the infielders napping a little bit. But sometimes you can get a catcher. And on this particular ball, it was hard for him to handle that. Pedroia got there, but the surprise was on the catcher. You take your secondary lead and then you go late. You should be dead if the catcher's, the catcher sees you and the infielders cover the base.
Tito Francona, whose team led the American League in stolen bases, getting one from Big Mike Napoli here.
Listen, Mike Napoli can't run. He can't run a lick. That's his 5th steal this year. So he knows when to pick his spots. People fall asleep when he's on the bases.
I wouldn't imagine all 5 of them are delayed, though.
No.
He's in scoring position now with Ramirez, a good RBI man. You go back to last night's game and you think about the heads-up play by Perez to tag on the deep fly ball to left and move from first to second and then score the 5th run for the Indians. And now Napoli's out there.
The delayed steal is really old school.
Yeah.
The hit and run has kind of gone away because a lot of people swing and miss.
Price pitches around it as he strikes out Ramirez. We head to the 4th in Cleveland. Infinity upcoming schedule in this series. We'll be in Boston Sunday for Game 3. Game 4 if you need it Monday, and Game 5 if they need it back here in Cleveland on Wednesday. We're heading to the top half of the 4th inning on a Friday afternoon in Cleveland, where it's still 80 degrees. I kid you not. October 7th, 80 degrees, Cleveland, Ohio. Mark it down. 4-0 game. Corey Kluber facing the top of the Red Sox order, Dustin Pedroia.
Well, like all good pitchers, Corey Kluber in his career, when his team has given him 4 more runs, 35-0.
You know, I keep thinking a little bit of Francona, you know, went for it yesterday using his bullpen, stretching his bullpen out. He had to be hoping for a game where he score some runs and get out there early. Maybe it makes his managing the bullpen a little bit different than if it was a 1-1 game.
He kiddingly said that Corey Kluber has 150 to 175 pitches in him today.
Two balls, 1 strike to the Red Sox leadoff hitter. Pedroia takes a strike. 2-2. Kluber 3rd in the American League in wins. He was 4th in ERA. He was 5th in innings pitched. And he's working with a 4-0 lead here in game 2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and comes to the plate. Count full.
He's got good command of that side of the plate. Ball comes back to catch the outside corner. That just barely missed at 92.
And the Red Sox have their leadoff hitter on to start the 4th. Moments ago, Sam Ryan spoke with Indians pitching coach Mickey Callaway.
Mickey, first batter of the game, a fielding play for Corey coming off the quad. You're laughing, you're smiling. How much of a relief was that to see it executed so early?
It was really good. Obviously, we practiced that throughout the season. He doesn't get to practice when he's a little banged up. So, you know, it was good to see him get through that and come out and pitch 3 effective innings so far.
Yeah, a couple of quick innings for him as well. What do you think from the arm?
Yeah, you know what? I think he's getting better as the game goes on. He's kind of felt his way through the first couple of innings, a little erratic, but settled in that last inning. And this top of the lineup here is going to be a big inning for him.
Thanks a lot, Mickey.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And it started with the first walk issued by Kluber to Pedroia. And now Brock Holt at the plate. 3 hits in the opener. Singled his first time here in game 2, but was erased in a double play. 0-1. Not even a ball and a strike.
That's a big inning for Kluber, also for Boston. You want to put a few hits together. Pedroia does his job of getting on the leadoff walk. You want to try to get back in this game, in this inning.
Too many good hitters in this lineup for the Boston Red Sox. Cal, you talked about it before game 1. Up and down the lineup. Guys that can hurt you. Guys who hit for average and power.
Ran it inside. Called 3rd strike. 1 down.
Well, when you haven't thrown in 10 days, what happens is that sometimes you can be extra strong and rusty as far as your pitches in the strike zone. And that's a beautiful 2-seam fastball that starts in the middle of the hip of Brock Holt and breaks out over the middle of the plate.
Yeah, that showed how much that ball actually moved. The rotation, it almost broke like a breaking ball.
Here's Mookie Betts with Pedroia at first and 1 down.
I thought Boston was a little amped up last night offensively. A lot of check swings, a lot of swings at the ball in the dirt. Sometimes that's because the breaking balls are really good. But I thought overall last night they were a little bit more jumpy, wanted to get out there and wanted to make things happen instead of letting them happen.
Betts looking for his first hit of the series. Grounded into a double play in the first.
Well, only that legged out double by David Ortiz, the hit by the big four. Best teams I've played on, when they get down a few runs, always say, hey guys, let's just stay pesky. Let's just play for one, get a couple here and there. Let's chip away. Those are the best teams that come back.
Yeah, it's try instead of trying to get it all together, or all back with one swing. You try to hit a grand slam with nobody on base. You still got to have base runners. You still got to put a little pressure on the pitcher with people on base.
So after the strikeout of Holt, a 4-pitch walk to Betts. They're at first and second.
So the perfect pitch to Brock Holt for the strikeout, but the rustiness you can see of Corey Kluber with 2 walks and a 4-run lead.
Yeah, you don't want to start walking people in front of Big Papi.
So a couple of walks here in the fourth. A strikeout in between those. And here's Ortiz.
Ortiz got a couple of long flies, home runs off Kluber. One swing of the bat, the Red Sox are back in it.
That's not the one swing. Infield fly rule in effect, as Lindor squeezed it. 2 down.
It's got to be one of the worst feelings for a hitter as you see the frustration of Ortiz. He really felt like he was looking in, got the pitch in, it was a fastball, and he just missed it.
Sometimes you can be really confident when you come to the plate when they walk the hitter before you. It's almost like they're going to try to get ahead even more. They might lay a cookie down the middle. He was laying for that cookie, just didn't get it.
Here's Hanley Ramirez. Took a called third strike his first time. Had a couple of doubles in the opener. Kluber pours in strike one.
That's the regular season, but 16 for 35 in the division series for Hanley Ramirez. Always dangerous. 14 home runs since August 27th.
That just missed a ball and a strike.
Phil Cuzzy, the home plate umpire, has a habit, Cal, of backing up. Every time he backs up after a pitch, I feel like he's going to call a strike, but sometimes he doesn't.
37,000 thought but the arm was going to go up too, and it stayed put. A ball and a strike. Runners lead from first and second. Fouled straight back. Pedroia walked. Holt struck out. Betts walked. Ortiz popped up. And now everybody here stands up.
And sometimes when you go against a really good pitcher, you only get one really good pitch to hit per at bat. I think that last one was his pitch. Fouled it straight back.
After that swing, you got to come back with a slider. Too good of a swing by Ramirez.
Got him the first time on that ball that comes back to the outside corner that he gave up on a little bit. Sure, that's in the back of Hanley's mind. He's got to cover that outside corner.
Pedroia and Betts lead from second and first, and again Ramirez stepping out to kill the moment.
Sometimes when a pitcher and catcher disagree on a pitch, it's not the pitch, it's the location of the pitch. Maybe Kluber wants to come inside with a fastball.
Strike three called for the second time on Hanley Ramirez. The Red Sox leave 2 runners on and still trail this one 4-0. This afternoon's 2016 American League Division Series coverage on TBS is presented by T-Mobile. Indians with a 4-0 lead as we head to the bottom half of the 4th inning, and Brandon Guyer will lead it off against David Price. Guyer a bloop single in that 2nd inning, knocked in a run, and he was able to score on the Lonnie Chisenhall 3-run homer. Had a chance to talk to him the other day about all those hit by pitches. 31 of them this year, far and away the most in baseball. And then, and this is kind of a commentary on my dull existence, I was going through baseball references. I wonder how long it took for this guy to get hit by a pitch. I wonder if he was always getting hit. And it actually took him first 49 games of his career and 77 plate appearances before Dallas Keuchel hit him. This ball gets its way into shallow left, kind of ate up Xander Bogaerts, but he says he's closed his stance in recent seasons pitchers were throwing him in a little more, so he was a little closer to the plate. They were throwing him in, and so he was getting hit, and he said mainly it's that front leg. He said that's where I take all the abuse. If it's up above my belt, I can get out of the way. But he said his leg's a mess during the regular season.
He just made Xander Bogaerts' leg a mess with that bullet.
Tough play to make out there, Cal, when that ball hit like that.
Yeah, it caught him in between. Ball was hit really hard. He made a good attempt at getting at it, but you have to just kind of spear your glove at it and try to snag it.
So Geyer, who didn't play last night, is 2 for 2 in game 2. And here's the guy who homered his first time, Lonnie Chisenhall.
I've always found that in these games you have to own the bottom of the lineup, because if you don't own them and they start to get on base, then the big rigs start coming up.
Second time today, Matt Barnes is up and throwing in the Red Sox bullpen.
Lonnie hit a fastball out inside. David comes back with 2 fastballs, try to get him to swing at the ball up.
Two balls, no strikes. Geyer, short lead at first. That's in the air behind second, and Bogaerts makes the play, 1 down. In between innings, we saw Andrew Miller out there in the Indians bullpen.
Well, the one thing is that, asked if he was going to be ready for today's game, Andrew Miller said absolutely. But Terry Francona told us that he was going to have both he and Allen go out and play some catch, see how they felt. And Terry always feels as though communication is the key thing with his relievers. He wants the truth. He doesn't want what he wants them to think he wants to hear. He said, if you tell me you're ready to pitch and you're not, I'm going to make a mistake by putting you in there.
Miller threw 40 pitches in that first game of this series, threw 2 innings in the Indians' victory. He is the only left-hander in the Cleveland pen.
So the answer from both pitchers to Terry Francona, they are ready to pitch today. He'd love not to use them.
To not have to make that decision, that's for sure.
Did you guys have another meeting after the first meeting so he could tell us that? And I might have missed that one.
Two balls and a strike for Roberto Perez. Who had a memorable postseason debut in game 1. In every facet of the game, I might add. Foul right underneath us.
Well, as the postseason will do, these are the names that have jumped out at us in this first week. Connor Gillespie, Roberto Perez, Ezekiel Carrera, Lonnie Chisenhall.
As we said when the day began, not always the biggest names who make the biggest impact. Two balls, 2 strikes to Perez. And the count full, 3-2. Rajay Davis, Indians leadoff hitter, waits on deck.
Boy, 4-run lead. You start the runner, Cal?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can start to take chances, as we saw Napoli on the delayed steal, but I don't think it's a good opportunity here to start the runner.
Ball 4, first and second with one out. Perez, after his big night on Thursday, has drawn 2 walks here in game 2. And David Price has drawn the attention of John Farrell. And his day is through in the 4th inning. For David Price, the postseason drought continues.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
David Price went 3 1/3. Matt Barnes, the new Boston pitcher.
Well, it's been a breakout season for Matt Barnes. Led the staff not only in games but also in innings pitched. See, he keeps the ball in the ballpark and has been good at leaving inherited runners stranded. So last night, Rick Porcello goes 4 1/3. That's his shortest outing of the season. Today, this afternoon, David Price goes 3 1/3. That's the shortest outing in his postseason career.
Go figure. Wearing their Friday best here in Cleveland. A little after dinner time. And the Indians feasting on the aces of the Boston Red Sox in this series. Rajai Davis is 0 for 2. He fouled out to the catcher his first time, struck out in the second, so his third at bat here in the fourth. Grounded to third. Holt bobbles, still gets the force. He had a chance at that 5-3 double play if he handles it cleanly at first. You think, Cal?
Yeah, Rajai Davis runs really well. And maybe that's what he was thinking in the back of his mind. But I still think he has a chance. If he executes, catches the ball cleanly, he'll throw him out at first base.
Put Davis aboard on a fielder's choice. Perez advances to second. as Geyer was forced at third. So 2 down for Jason Kipnis.
Those extra outs always seem to haunt you this time of year.
Kipnis has popped up twice in this one after picking up 3 hits on Thursday night. The 0-1 into left field. That ball's going to get down for a base hit. Here comes Perez to the plate. Here comes the throw. It's cut off. And what are you saying about those extra outs? 5-0 Cleveland.
And we saw Perez has a pretty sizable primary lead at second base, and he's a little bit behind the bag. Got an aggressive secondary. You can see it in the background. Gets off a secondary lead, gets a pretty good jump, but that angle by leading off deep already creates an angle that you can cut third base. So when you don't have the best of speed, you got to do all those little things to score the run. Nice job.
Kipnis has 4 runs batted in this series. 2 last night, 2 more today. And here's Lindor. Switch hitter turning around and batting lefty against the righty Matt Barnes. So Perez scoring. That run will be charged to David Price. Left-hander Robbie Ross getting loose for Boston. There was Lindor last night in that 3-home-run third inning. He and Kipnis went back-to-back after Perez had gone deep. He's 0 for 2 today.
It looks like Raja is trying to get a beat to steal third base. That's something that's more normal now than it used to be. There's really no advantage of stealing third with 2 outs or taking the risk. But the more modern player wants to take it, whenever he can.
It's almost a gimme sometimes.
And his lead is not deeper, but it's more in line with the base. Base stealers want the straightest distance to the bag.
Lindor takes a called third strike, and that'll end the 4th. But the Indians pad their lead. It's 5-0 as we head to the 5th.
This 2016 ALDS telecast on TBS is brought to you by Jaguar, the art of performance, and by the Blue Cash Everyday Card from American Express.
Red Sox trying to dig themselves out of a 5-0 hole as we go to the 5th here in Cleveland, and Xander Bogaerts will lead it off.
You know, coming into this series, you thought because the Indians lost Salazar and Carrasco that really they were at behind the 8 ball with their starting pitching when you compared it to the Boston Red Sox. But in these first 2 games, Boston starters Porcello and Price have gone 7 2/3 innings, given up 10 runs, including 4 home runs.
A 1-1 pitch from Kluber is outside to Bogaerts. 22-game winner Porcello taking the loss on Thursday night.
39 of their 93 wins this year came from those 2 guys.
In the hole at short, Lindor, long throw, just late. No way he's going to get Bogaerts with his wheels, but Lindor, man.
Yeah, I didn't think he had a chance at it, but he has some kind of range and some kind of strength of arm to throw the ball on the run and get it over there. He gets a lot of other runners in the league.
Well, once he passed that light and he was at 6th Street, I knew he didn't have a chance.
He covers a lot of ground.
Tough throw to make there, too, going into left field, and got something on it. So the leadoff hitter is on in a 5-0 game, and here is Andrew Benintendi. Takes a strike.
Bogaerts diving into first base, it kind of brings up the whole thought. Do you get there quicker or not? And it used to be that you could steal a call, that maybe it changes the view from the umpire. But now with the replay, if the fastest way to get there is by running, you should run through the bag.
Yeah, if Usain Bolt doesn't slide, ball players shouldn't slide either.
There was some truth to getting a call. You know, it changes the view, it changes the look, it changes the perception. But now with the replay over there, you know, there's really no advantage.
Ronnie, I can honestly say that's the first time I've heard the Usain Bolt analogy. That ball was pretty well hit by Benintendi, but Chisenhall made the play.
Well, he's been able to use the top of the strike zone, gets the call against Jackie Bradley Jr., and then that ball that comes back on Brock Holt. His fastball has been very good. I wouldn't say he has great command of his breaking pitch yet, but that fastball has been right on time. It's live TV. You never know what I'm going to say up here, Ernie. I apologize.
That's the way we like it. Chisenhall made a nice play on that ball that Benintendi hit because he didn't take a step in and risk having that ball that's hit right at you go over your head, and he was out there basically where that one sliver of afternoon light is still present in the outfield. 2 best at bats for the Red Sox these first 2 games have been Brock Holt and Andrew Benintendi. No balls, 1 strike to Leone. The 0-2 from Kluber. Just a little tight.
There's not a whole lot of signs of rust the way he's spotting his fastball, you know. He strikes out a lot of people, so he's striking out on his fastball and his great breaking ball. And he's commanding that fastball really well.
Perez kept it in front and kept Bogarts at first. And the count is even, 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, it's been said before, if you can control your fastball, you can keep your team in the game. If you can control that good breaking ball that Kluber has, that's when he has his big games. Big strikeout games.
Coming back inside with a fastball.
From 0-2, we go to a full count. Little blooper to short. Lindor makes the play. That's 2 down. Got a big smile on his face. It's almost like Cali was thinking, should I let this drop and get a force here? Is he running this out?
Yeah, that's a little risky, but the idea is you replace the runner. You take a guy that runs really well on first and you replace him with Leon if you can trap that ball. Many times that can be done on a pop-up behind the mound. And it's right there where the grass is near second base. You could let that go there, but that's a risky one to try to trap that ball. You can't hit the glove and knock it down. You got to let it hit the ground first.
You see a mid-game smile from a young shortstop in a playoff game. You see that a lot from Lindor.
He has such a happy disposition. You're right.
In fact, he said if he weren't playing baseball, he'd be a chef or he'd be a dentist, because he'd like to make people have good smiles, because he loves to see that. Not many smiles on that Boston side these days. They're down 5-0 in this game, 2 out, and their number 9 hitter Jackie Bradley.
Just my opinion, he would not be as well liked if he became a dentist. I don't care how many smiles he made.
Don't mention alternative careers to a baseball guy. Bradley struck out 3 times in the opener and in his only plate appearance today.
And it's really been no science to it. They're just really attacking him above the strike zone with fastballs. Only rust I see from Kluber is that when he's at his best, and I've seen him pitch many games, he has a great ability to put hitters away. They've been able to stay in the count, a pitch or 2 longer, which has elevated his pitch count.
Ready to deliver pitch number 80 here in the 5th. And he is shutting out the Red Sox through 5 innings of work. It's 5-0 heading to the bottom half of the 5th. Let's take a look at the art of performance presented by Jaguar. Watch out for those Toronto Blue Jays who won the wild card game and have taken a 2-0 lead over the Texas Rangers.
Lowest scoring team in baseball in September, and now because of those home runs, undefeated in October.
Mike Napoli leads it off against Matt Barnes here in the bottom half of the 5th. The starter David Price went 3 1/3, 6 hits, 5 runs. Struck out 3 and walked a couple. Gave up a 3-run bullet to right to Lonnie Chisenhall. Once again getting production at the bottom of that order too are the Cleveland Indians. Napoli on the ground is short. Bogarts throws him out, 1 down.
It's funny how teams in the postseason can rally around the strangest of things. And Cardinals in 2011, of course, their thing was happy flights. For the Red Sox in 2013, it took a tragedy, and Boston Strong came together, and they had an unbelievable run in 2013. And party at Napoli's is trying to work its way all the way through October.
Carlos Santana singled and scored in the 2nd. Struck out in the 3rd. He bats here in the 5th with 1 out. In Game 2 of the ALDS here on TBS. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon and early evening with us. Earlier in the day in Texas, Toronto beating the Rangers. Grounded to first, and that's just foul.
Well, I think before this postseason started, I think some of us might have underrated the starting staff of the Toronto Blue Jays. We saw Aaron Sanchez on the last day of the season beat the Red Sox. We've seen Marco Estrada pitch a wonderful game yesterday. They just have so much talent.
After that foul ball, count 1-1, and the Red Sox go into their shift with Brock Holt moving to the right side of the infield. And it's right to him. Funny how that works, huh? 2 up, 2 down.
So if you ask yourself if the second baseman would be playing his normal position, would that have been an out?
Sure. But it goes down 5-3 in the books, which looks like a grounder to the 3rd baseman, who was playing on the right side.
It helps the analytics guys, Cal. That's all we're trying to do here.
We're just trying to help the analytics guys.
That's all we're doing.
2 up and 2 down for Ramirez. And that is a base hit to right.
Moral to that story is if you can spray the ball all over the field, they can't shift on you.
He had that full swing bunt. He used his speed on, but besides that, he's been squaring the ball up on that left side.
Second hit of the day for Ramirez, who had 2 in the opener as well. Here's Brandon Guyer. Didn't play Thursday, making the most of the opportunity here on Friday. Knocked in a run, scored a run. 2 for 2. Robbie Ross Jr. again up in the Boston bullpen.
Terry Francona could have went to Tyler Naquin, Coco Crisp. Instead likes this matchup, Guyer against Barnes.
This is definitely one of those situations that will take a chance of stealing a base here. You got a 5-0 lead. You just can't sit back against this offense. 2 outs. And you can afford to take the risk when you have a lead.
Pretty good bluff when they throw back.
Really good job of Barnes by holding the ball a little longer. It's called like freezing the runner over there. When you hold it a long time, and it's hard to do, he gets antsy, wants to get out there, wants to get started, and he almost seems like he's digging deeper into his cleats.
What happens for good base stealers, if they don't get that good jump, they shut it down and come back.
Two balls, no strikes. Geyer waiting at the plate. There goes the runner, and it's fouled straight back.
And a nice jump that time.
Cal, what did Terry Francona say? That he doesn't like to put the hit and run anymore. He certainly wouldn't do it with 2 outs here anyway. He prefers his runners run when he can, and hitters, if you like that pitch, go after it.
Yep, he doesn't want to take the bat out of the hands of the hitter. That might have been a good one, though, on a 2-0 count.
He said his guys can't even play pepper in spring training. He had to stop it.
He was bemoaning the loss of that art.
And Terry was really good at it as a player. He had great bat control.
Runner goes again. Here's the throw, and he's in there. Ramirez swipes the bag with 2 out.
Really nice jump.
He was second on the team to Rajay Davis in stolen bases. He was 22 for 29.
Yeah, they're looking at that as we watch the replay. I was wondering if Dustin might have grazed him on the leg before he got to the bag. I didn't think so, but they're going to take a look at it.
This better not be one of those came off the bag once he beat the throw things, Cal, or you and I are going
to. Well, if he came off the bag, he would be out.
Ernie's going to walk down there and fill it with uppercuts. It's almost like he caught the back of his shoe.
Yeah, he might have got him
when he caught the baseball.
From that angle, you can see contact made, but you can't see where his hand was at the time. So we'll need
2 different shots.
Angle.
It confirms that he touched him. Then you have to see from the side angle where his hand was.
There it is. There's a shot.
He could be out.
He's out.
If you confirm the tag, if it shows that there's a tag, he's out.
In this wireless world, though, we have to really get rid of the headsets as soon as possible.
Take away the stolen base. That's out number 3 here in the 5th. Stay tuned for a sneak peek of Warner Brothers Pictures' The Accountant in theaters October 14th. postseason schedule on TBS. We'll keep it simple. Here's what's happening Sunday. Cleveland and Boston, 4 o'clock. Texas and Toronto, 7:30. Both games on TBS. Coverage beginning at 3:30 Eastern with the MLB postseason pregame show on TBS, presented by the all-new Chrysler Pacifica. We move to the top half of the 6th in Game 2. Corey Kluber working on a shutout. Look out, Iron Man!
Yeah, that was close. That confirms you need a glove down here. Didn't get anybody.
I'm worried about Slice and Butterfingers, to tell you the truth.
The nicknames run amok.
So I don't know if Slice is any better than Butterfingers over here.
In the air, center field by Pedroia. Rajay Davis has a beat on it. 1 down. That's your trusty sidekick, Glenn Vallis, down there with Cal Ripken. Well, we've got a second. Want to check in Sam Ryan. Sam.
Yeah, Ernie, earlier Ron threw out Party at Napoli's, how this has taken off. And you see those T-shirts around the ballpark. The players wear them in the clubhouse before the game. It all started by season ticket holder. He brought a sign to a game earlier in the season that said Party at Napoli's. People got a kick out of it, so he made his own T-shirt. Then it really took off. It was a hit. The team loved it. They worked with the company 108 stitches. They produced them with the proceeds.
That was kind of a party at Napoli's. It was a party off of Napoli's glove, as a matter of fact. Go ahead, Sam.
And they're keeping the party going here at Progressive Field. So a portion of the proceeds go to fight children's cancer. Now, the team later hosted an event here at Progressive Field, a real life, so to speak, party at Napoli's. $120,000 to date raised for Cleveland Clinic Children's, guys.
Ever have one of those days when everything is absolutely going your way?
Listen,
3-4 to 1.
A very good party. You got to have party tricks. That's number 1.
Wow. So here's the way you're scoring it at home. 3-4 to 1.
And Mike Napoli looks the most confused of all.
It is funny how this game works. You'd like to think that luck is not a factor, but when things start happening your way, you seem to get the breaks.
Mookie Betts, base hit to center field. And for the guy celebrating his 24th birthday today, there is his first hit of this series. Brad Ziegler is the right-hander. Robbie Ross, you've seen him up and throwing a couple of times in this game. And here's Big Papi. He's 0 for 2. Popped as short as last time on a pitch that he thought he had his pitch. Very frustrated as he tossed the bat aside. This ball's hit to right. Chisenhall makes the play. He backed up and then caught it off the shoe tops. That was an interesting defensive inning for the Cleveland Indians to keep the shutout alive.
This 2016 ALDS telecast on TBS is delivered by Papa John's, the official pizza of Major League Baseball, and by the well-equipped 2017 Mitsubishi Outlander.
Zipping right along into the bottom half of the 6th inning here in Cleveland. Brandon Guyer leads it off, and the Indians on top here in game 2, 5-0. Trying to take a 2-zip lead in this best of 5. Matt Barnes came on in the 4th in relief of David Price.
You know, it's going to be interesting on the Indians side is that Corey Kluber has 86 pitches after 6 innings. They want him to get as deep as he can, but if this game goes 5, he'll be game 5 pitcher.
And I know Terry Francona feels this way, but you can't put this one in the books until it's there.
Absolutely.
As soon as you start thinking that I'm going to save him for game 5, something goes wrong.
Well, Francona knows how to manage after he wins game 1. And you think about all the managers in baseball, best when they're in the postseason. You think Bruce Bochy, I guess, first.
How about Brandon Guyer going 3 for 3? Here's a look at StatCast powered by Amazon Web Services. This will be interesting. See how quickly this ball got out by Lonnie Chisenhall. Just over the yellow line and right off a piece of plexiglass in front of our camera. So Brandon Guyer, leadoff single in the 6th. That's going to signal the end of the day for Matt Barnes. Robbie Ross Jr., the left-hander, comes on for Boston. TNT. Cavaliers in attendance here today. Coverage starts on October 25th at 6 o'clock. Live from right here in Cleveland. You guys are having a good time. Happy to report that his boy J.R. Smith still has his shirt on.
Well, Robbie Ross Jr. in the pitch against Chisenhall. Ross started his career with the Texas Rangers. 2nd year with Boston. In those 55 and 3rd innings of work, only 2 home runs allowed.
Lonnie Chisenhall, who has the big swing of the game, a 3-run homer. Behind 0-1. see from that shot right there that Robbie Ross makes his living with his left arm, but his right arm gets all the ink. The 0-2. And Chisenhall is retired for the first out of the 6th.
He's got a strikeout per inning, and you can see why. He's nasty on lefties.
And that is going to be all, it would appear, for Robbie Ross, who comes on and strikes out Chisenhall. We got Roberto Perez coming to the plate. As Ross retires Chisenhall, should be Ziegler coming out of the Boston pen. Take a look at tonight's Playmakers, presented by the all-new Chrysler Pacifica. Ball flying out of this yard on Thursday night, resulting in 5 guys making their postseason debuts, all homering. Benintendi, Leon, Holt, Perez, and Lindor. Perez is coming to the plate here in the bottom half of the 6th against the 4th Boston pitcher.
Well, Brad Ziegler came over from Arizona this year. He's the guy that throws from the side in 29 2/3 innings pitched. 6 double plays for Ziegler with Boston and a 1.52 ERA.
Doesn't give up many home runs. Only 2 this season. He spent part of the year in Arizona and then here in Boston. Stepped off and bluffed. Now, when he was with Arizona, his 1 home run allowed was to an American leaguer, Miguel Cabrera. Went to Boston, his 1 home run allowed was to a National leaguer, Ryan Schimpf. Trying to get a double play ball. This is your man.
John Farrell is matching up right now, but I think maybe he's also thinking, how can I get a few more guys into the game, get their feet wet in the playoffs.
Once again, Cal, we're seeing having to contend with a little bit of a funky delivery from a guy like Ziegler.
Yeah, I mean, he throws his arm angles way down, and many times you have to force yourself to look down first to where his release point is, and it's still difficult. It's unusual. Your eyes aren't ready to focus down there right away. So sometimes the ball, even though velocity-wise is not that hard.
The 0-2 goes right through the wicket of Dustin Pedroia. So on one hand, you get a hard hit ball that goes off a first baseman's glove into the hands of your second baseman, who throws to the pitcher covering. And here, double play ball that gets through Pedroia.
Yeah, Dustin's coming in getting good position, but he seemed to get caught right in between on the hop. And he's had a couple of those plays that he has fielded so far in this series, but that one just bit him. Wanting to make sure he got the double play, maybe instead of just making sure of one.
So runners at first and third. You saw Geyer at third. Perez now at first, reaching on the E4. Top of the order now, Rajai Davis. Playing in the bottom of the sixth in a 5-0 game, and the Red Sox can't afford to let the Indians tack on. They bring the infield in.
I mean, when you're in this situation as a hitter, you're trying to hit a fly ball for a sacrifice fly, but it's very difficult against Ziegler's delivery.
I would say, if I was offering an opinion to a young guy that hadn't seen a guy that throws down there very often, you know, try to hit the ball between first and second baseman. You want to stay inside of it. Instead of trying to pull it and roll over on it, you're more apt to hit a ground ball. Try to put your bat at an angle that kind of anticipates the sink.
That's going to be a foul ball off the foot of Davis.
You've all heard about staying inside the ball. And that one right there, you're trying to pull that pitch and it just sinks at the last minute. You roll over and hit it off your foot. And it also makes sure that the pitcher, the sinker ball pitcher, gets the ball out over the plate. Because when it starts on the inside and starts sinking, it's going to sink a whole lot more. It's going to be much more difficult to get the bat head to it.
Two balls and a strike to the plate. Will that ball hang up? It will. Bradley makes the catch. Runner tags. Throw to the plate will be late. And Brandon Geyer scores the 6th Cleveland run. Davis hit it well. The ball stayed up in the air for Bradley.
Yeah, he hit it well. Bradley makes a nice running catch. Right in stride, gets rid of it strong and quick, but just a little off target.
J.R. Smith and the rest of the Cavs enjoying that, watching the Indians have things all their way here in Game 2. Here's Jason Kipnis.
You know, we talked the depth of the Boston Red Sox lineup. Hitters 6 through 9 for Cleveland today. 6 for 10, a home run, 4 RBIs, and 5 runs scored.
His last time at bat, I may have given Jason Kipnis, who's having a good series, a little too much credit. He has 3 runs batted in the series and not 4. Talked to him about his days in college baseball. He played at Kentucky and then transferred to Arizona State. Almost gave up the game. Said he was going to maybe just content himself with tearing up the intramural leagues. Kept it going at Arizona State and has become quite the second baseman for the Cleveland Indians.
So the Red Sox on a play that Brock Holt might have been able to turn 2. Doesn't. Cleveland scores a run. Same with the Troya miscue.
Sails inside, ball 4. Runners at first and second with 2 out. Joe Kelly, who worked in game 1, waiting for the call here in game 2. Don't miss the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs in game 1 of the NLDS. It starts at 9 o'clock on FS1. Who you like?
Boy, that's going to be a tough series. I mean, it's hard to not believe that the Cubs are going to be at the World Series at some point, but that even year stuff with the San Francisco Giants. And I think Bumgarner was pretty good the other night, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Toughest time he had was handling the last question from Buster Olney. Why do you have to? Why do you have to ask me? Why do you have to ask me tough questions? Because I guess I just want to be known as a winner. You are known as that. Francisco Lindor at the plate with 2 down and 2 on, 1 in for the Indians.
I think predicting a team for the season is easier than predicting a short series. We wouldn't have predicted that Cleveland would jump ahead 2-0 or that Toronto would jump ahead 2-0. And even though this game's not over, anything can happen in a short series, and momentum does play a role. Confidence breaks. You start believing in yourself. One hot pitcher.
So there, in your mind, there is something to momentum in a series. A lot of times you hear folks say, hey, look, every game's its own entity. There's no carryover, but you're not buying that, are you?
No, I think from a confidence standpoint, and you're starting to feel good about, and even with a young team like Cleveland getting off to the start that they did yesterday, I think that carries over to today, that they're more hopeful. They relax a little bit more, and that's the key to playing in the playoffs, is to relax. So I do think that there's a momentum, a confidence that can take over in a series.
Well, the Cubs felt good against the Mets last year until Daniel Murphy showed up.
Yeah, Daniel Murphy showed up in those young arms.
Well, Terry Francona's teams in the postseason, when they win game 1, his record 6-1.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Ziegler to the plate, and he fooled him, and that's strike 3. But a big error by Dustin Pedroia hurt the Boston cause. 6-0. Our 2016 American League Division Series coverage on TBS presented by T-Mobile. It's our director, Matt Lippett's one of his favorite parts of the game is the hot dog race. This is 2 games in a row we have shown you the winner. Mustard hanging on to defeat ketchup and onions. Well, we move to the top half of the 7th inning in a 6-0 game. Cleveland trying to hold serve in their ballpark, win the first 2. Next 2 are in Boston. Game 5 would be here at Progressive Field. And again, to repeat, this came down to the last weekend of the regular season. In fact, Boston had the advantage over Cleveland for home field in this series. And then after an 11-game winning streak, they lost 5 out of 6. While the Indians completed a 3-game sweep of the Royals in Kansas City. And all of a sudden on Sunday, they had no need to play a makeup game against Detroit on that Monday, which was a possibility.
That was huge for them.
Yeah, they had already clinched the home field and are making the most of it.
But I think you're right. If you're the Red Sox and you don't come back in this game, that's really how you have to think about it. You know, Cleveland won the 2 games at their park, go back to our park and win the next 2.
Grounded to third. Ramirez with a good throw to retire the other Ramirez. 1 down.
Otero's up in the pen for the Indians. But how about the start for Kluber? We mentioned his first postseason start ever. One he'll always remember.
So wouldn't you be tempted to push him a little further?
I would, but you know, we talked before the game. He's got 90 pitches. He's had a kind of a mystery injury. We don't know if it's quad or the groin, but it's something in his leg. And maybe they just don't want to push him to the point where they don't have him available for game 5 if it goes that far.
In tight to Xander Bogaerts, 1-0.
Yeah, notice right now all the fastballs are being called away, and the ball's leaking inside. Almost hit Hanley on the first pitch. Supposed to be a fastball away. I don't know whether his arm angle's down a little bit, but ball's running a lot more inside when he's trying to get it on the outside corner.
You know, Cal, he hasn't pitched in 10 days, and even on that day he pitched 11 days ago, he only went 4 innings. So not a lot of work for Kluber.
But so far, if you're Tito Francona, I mean, he managed his backside off on that Thursday night game to win game 1, getting nearly 5 out of Trevor Bauer, and then going the 2 with Andrew Miller and extending guys to basically the limit, able to hang on for that 5-4 win. And needing something like this out of Corey Kluber in game 2.
For you Indian fans out there, last night was the first time that 2 Indian relievers have thrown 40 or more pitches since Dave Berba and Paul Shuey. You know those guys, Cal.
I do. Didn't like to face either one of them. Paul Shuey.
We mentioned last night how good the Red Sox all season long have been with 2 strikes. 0 for 10 tonight with 2 strikes.
Kluber has struck out 6. He's walked 2. He has allowed but 3 hits. And there is strikeout number 7. 2 down in the 7th. Look ahead to game 3 and play Buchholz at Fenway against Josh Tomlin.
So the Indians have used Trevor Bauer in game 1, who didn't make the rotation out of spring training was in the bullpen. They've used their ace here in Kluber. Game 3, they're going to use Josh Tomlin, who a month ago was taken out of the rotation.
Benintendi pops it up behind third. Long run. Is somebody going to make a play? Yes, Brandon Guyer. 1-2-3 inning in the 7th. Guyer with the play to retire the side. Time to stretch in Cleveland. T-Mobile lets MLB fans always stay connected to the game they love. Show us how you're baseball's #1 fan by using #UnlimitedBaseball for a free MLB Shop gift code and other epic prizes.
Do the Cavaliers have this much fun all the time? I guess they do.
But saw Kevin Love down there field level, and LeBron, who addressed the crowd here, which is 37,842. And they delivered the it's Cleveland against the world message.
You'd think they'd wear shorts enough. Long pants once in a while. Why don't you?
Hey, when it's 80 in October in Cleveland, take advantage. Pop up by Napoli to start the 7th.
Well, here's Kelly's numbers from this season. Spent some time in the minor leagues. High ERA. Joe Kelly is one of those pitchers that has had so much promise, just hasn't found that perfect year for him. Throws 95 plus.
When he came on last night, he struck out Napoli.
That's right.
Only hitter he faced, and pops him up here to lead off the bottom half of the 7th inning. Here's Santana. Santana 1 for 3. with a run scored. The big inning, if you're just joining us, was the second. Indians scored 4 times, 3 on a home run by Lonnie Chisenhall. Added a run in the 4th, another in the 6th.
Kelly's got a lot of experience, 13 games now in the postseason, including 4 starts. Remember him mostly in a Cardinal uniform.
Guys, let's talk a little hypotheticals here. We're talking to Francona about what he might do, bringing guys back on short rest. Thinking about the injuries to his staff. Now, if you're Boston, you start to think differently, being down 0-2.
Rounded into the shift. That'll be 2 up and 2 down. The talk has been that Eduardo Rodriguez would get the ball in Game 4.
Would you be tempted to bring Porcello back?
Oh, I'd be tempted to bring him back because he only went 4 1/3 innings. Not a lot of work. Neither is David Price. So you could come back with both of those pitchers if you get through Game 3.
With 2 down, here's Jose Ramirez.
Rick Porcello did not look good last night, but this season, in which he won 22 games, only lost once at Fenway Park.
Well, you look at the Red Sox, and there was nobody hotter in baseball in most of September when they had that 11-game winning streak, and actually that's what gave them the breathing room to win the AL East. Since that was over, they lost 5 out of 6 to end the regular season, and if this keeps up, it'll be 2 losses to begin this series. It's a 1-2-3 inning. They're looking at 7 losses in their last 8 if this keeps up. Time for records and milestones presented by Jim Beam. Drink smart. Check out this list, Ronnie.
Wow. Bartolo Colon, who's still pitching in the Mets uniform, and the great Oral Hershiser.
Corey Kluber doing this in his first postseason start. As we move to the 8th. 8, 9, and 1 due for the Red Sox, who trail 6-0. I'll send out our best to all those baseball fans and everybody down there on the East Coast of the United States, up and down the Florida coast and into Georgia and the Carolinas as they deal with Matthew. A lot of folks displaced. Hopefully getting a chance to sit back and watch a baseball game for a couple hours might take you away from reality for a little while. But boy, that was tough to watch. The sheer power of that storm.
Cal, you mentioned it. Terry Francona not taking any chances, sending out Kluber for the 8th.
There's a walk to lead off the 8th.
And he dropped the 2-1 slider on him. And they showed some patience, not expanding the strike zone.
Dan Otero loosening in the Cleveland pen. And here is Jackie Bradley Jr. Oh for 6, 5 strikeouts in the series. What are you seeing down there, Cal, with Jackie Bradley?
Well, I mean, I thought he was coming around a little bit. His swing has been a little long, but I think it's a powerful swing. Was chasing the ball up, still being aggressive. I don't know if I have the answers, but he is swinging and missing quite a bit. I first thought he was actually coming out and he was a little amped up and he was swinging too hard. The last few at bats, it seems like he's come back. He's pretty balanced. He's searching for something. He's searching to find how he hits.
Oh, well, hit him with an 0-2. And they're at first and second with nobody out. Unforced error by Corey Kluber.
I couldn't see where it got him from here.
I thought it caught him right below the knee.
Ooh.
On the outside of the leg.
He's got some protection for the lower part of that. That's right above the protection.
They're roaring for Corey Kluber here. His day is over. What a night's work. BS on TBS. Producer Scott Cockrell, Glenn Diamond, director Matt Lipp, technical director Bob Grabko. Among those making this possible here in Cleveland as Dan Otero enters the game here in the 8th with 2 on and no out.
Well, he's been their ground ball specialist. Great numbers this year in 62 games. He's had hitters ground into 11 double plays this year in his 72-third innings pitched.
Dustin Pedroia at the plate. Dan takes a strike. Pedroia's 0 for 2. He did walk in the 4th.
3 measly hits for the Red Sox. Otero's a strike thrower. Hasn't walked the first hitter he's faced all season long.
It's only the 2nd time tonight the Red Sox have had a runner in scoring position. No balls and a strike. And quickly Otero is ahead. No balls, 2 strikes. Andrew Miller's up. And so was Brian Shaw. They both worked last night. Leone the runner at second. Bradley at first. Pedroia goes down on strikes.
From the hitters I've talked to, Otero doesn't throw 95. Just very difficult to pick the ball up as he hides it very well. And this one eludes the bat of Pedroia.
Yeah, got some late movement on it, looks like, too.
Here's Brock Holt. Holt's had the best at bats for this Red Sox team through the first 2 games, and he's got 4 hits.
This is the 6th game in the postseason for Dan Otero. First 5 in an Oakland A's uniform.
Runners lead from first and second. And it's no balls and 2 strikes. Boy, he's come out of the pen throwing strikes. And looking supremely confident.
Well, he's a great crossover. Left-handers hitting under 200 against him. Hasn't given up a home run to a lefty all season long.
Originally with the Giants, pitched in Oakland, as Ronnie points out, there was where he got his postseason experience. Phillies got him off of waivers and then traded him to Cleveland. And he put in some work out of that pen. 70 2/3. Stayed low. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And like so many pitchers out there, it's almost easier sometimes to count the guys who haven't had Tommy John. He did back in college when he went to Duke and the University of South Florida.
There's one thing for sure for Otero is when I look at pitchers, a lot of times you want to know immediately who is calling the pitches, who is thinking. Catcher puts down a sign, but he is shaking off. He has an idea what he wants to do, and he's in total command. So you want to think with him. You not really start to think about what has the catcher done to me in the previous at bats.
Brock Holt putting together another good at bat.
Yeah, he really has. He's doing the best for the Red Sox in this series so far. But if you watch the Red Sox all season long, this is not a surprise.
In the air, right center field. Rajai Davis ranges over and makes the play. Runner will tag at second. Leone moves to third. They're at the corners with 2 now.
Well, fortunate to have the speed of Rajai Davis there, because that ball off the bat looked destined to be a double in the gap. But run down by Davis.
Nice base running by Sandy. He kind of got off the base and read it to see if it was going to shoot the gap or not. But as soon as he saw Rajai going to make the catch, he could go back a couple steps, touch the bag, and advance to third.
John Farrell, not wild about that ratio. 13 hits, 22 Ks. Mookie Betts takes a ball 1-0. Well, he was great with runners in scoring position at 355. He was even better with runners in scoring position and 2 out. 404 for the guy who turned 24 years old today.
I was just thinking, trying to do something big here on his birthday.
You ought to get a pretty good pitch to hit here.
Been pretty impressed by Roberto Perez and his ability to kind of, I don't know, take care of the game and his pitchers.
Tapped up toward third and foul.
The true test of how good your sinker is when you get into a count 2-0 or 3-1 and you know you're getting it and you still throw it and you do that. You dribble the ball down the third baseline. That should tell you as a pitcher that I got a good sinker, and he's not, even when he wants to cheat to it or look for it, he has trouble hitting it.
Count even 2-2.
Well spotted sinker right there.
He gets the call from Phil Cuzzy.
Reach back for a little extra right there at 92.
Nearly 38,000 here, and for the last 2 days things could not have gone any better up to this point. Grounded up the middle. Lindor takes it himself. How do you do? Stay tuned after the game for the postseason show on TBS, presented by the Lincoln Motor Company. Casey Stern, Pedro Martinez, Gary Sheffield, Jimmy Rollins. That's a great group in our Atlanta studio. Brandon Geyer's had himself a day here in game 2. 3 out of 3, a couple of runs scored. He's knocked one in. Joe Kelly, who set him down 1-2-3 in the 7th, back out there in the 8th. Craig Kimbrell, Eduardo Rodriguez in that Boston pen. Brandon Geyer, once upon a time, well, he and Chris Archer for the Cubs were the minor league player and pitcher of the year, and then they were both dealt to the Rays in the Matt Garza deal. Red Sox get him for the first time today for the first out.
I'm a tiny bit surprised that Craig Kimbrell's not in the game. You know, down the stretch he struggled a little bit. What better time to come in and kind of get an out or a couple of outs, feel kind of good about yourself, because they're going to need him at Fenway Park.
There are some guys that like an inning of work, and there's some guys that don't. Would rather throw in the pen. I don't know what Kimbrell is like, but we played with a lot of
look out
people.
Man, that's a bullet into the stands over there, over the dugout.
I thought you were worried about me, because it was coming our direction.
That was my first thought, Iron.
All right.
You know, Cal, my only issue is that in the last 3 games he's walked 6, so obviously there's something kind of off for him, and it's kind of hard to do. I don't know, figure it out in the bullpen when you're a closer. You need that little adrenaline push out there in the field. But I know what you're saying. Some guys just can't do it. I played with Dennis Eckersley in some of the years that he was automatic. And if you brought him in when we were ahead by 4 or 5 runs, you never knew what was going to happen.
Right. And that's almost worse. You end up getting the results. You go in there to work on something, to find something, and then the opposite occurs.
Now, the thing that jumps out at you when you look at Kimbrell's numbers for the year and for his career, most walks he's ever had, 32, came in 77 innings of work.
Yeah.
He's walked 30 this year in 53 innings. And so a guy who is always lights out, it's been, let's see if he gets out of this difficulty. He used to strike fear into the other dugout. We'll see if he rights himself here in this series. Kelly to the plate, missing.
You know, he missed time this year because of an injury. Sometimes that can throw you off just a tiny bit.
Yeah, it was his knee.
Yeah.
Chisenhall on the ground. Pedroia is going to throw him out. I don't know what this says about Lonnie Chisenhall, Cal. John Farrell makes his way to the mound. Maybe he will.
Kimbrell for a batter.
Yeah.
Get Craig Kimbrell a little work here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Good job by Joe Kelly again. Retired all 5 hitters he's faced in the first 2 games of this series.
This 2016 ALDS telecast on TBS is brought to you by Progressive, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. By Axe, find your magic. By T-Mobile One, welcome to unlimited baseball. And join the over 1 million small business customers who prevail with The Hartford.
Friday night in Cleveland. The Indians leading 6-0, and with 2 outs, nobody on here in the bottom half of the 8th. Craig Kimbrell is on for his first action of this series, and we talked about it before this actually transpired, before Farrell went and got Kelly to bring Kimbrell in. He's had a few things to try to iron out.
I think it's a good move. I think he's trying to get him that 1 out of confidence that, you know, after the off day, he'll be ready to go at Fenway Park.
Saw that familiar pose, which that's foul, which he started doing in AAA ball. No real purpose in it, just thought it looked cool.
It looks cool, and it's very intimidating. You can see those bases on balls last 3 games. First time he's done that since he was a youngster in 2010, his rookie season.
I like what Farrell's doing. It reminded me that when you have a reliever or a closer struggling, you want to minimize his exposure, the downside, and hopefully you'll get him something to build off of, even if it's just 1 hitter.
Threw the breaking pitch over for a strike, and he's ahead, no balls and 2 strikes. .55-footer. A ball and 2 strikes.
They're trying to get him to pitch more in a straight line, and what I mean by that is after he raises his legs, just drive from the rubber straight to home plate. He's been pitching kind of around his body, and that's why he's had trouble finding that 1 release spot. First 2 pitches good, 3rd pitch not so much.
Count even, 2-2. Some have called that Kimbrelling.
Like Tebowing? Is that what you're saying?
Like Duffnering. Well, had him 0-2, now the count full.
He's missed badly. Something mechanical is going on.
Well, you always keep that foot closed. That's to keep your front shoulder closed. But he's just hanging on to that ball way too long and pulling it out of the strike zone.
Comes back and strikes him out for the final out of the 8th. We head to the 9th. Indians 3 outs away from a 2-0 series lead. 2016 American League Division Series coverage on TBS presented by T-Mobile. They're about to make that pitching change. I was about to pose a question to the Iron Man. I'm going to wait for just a second. Concerned Lonnie Chisenhall, who's got the biggest hit of the game here. Brian Shaw facing Big Papi David Ortiz. In the air, right center field. Davis calls off. Chisenhall, one down. So what does it say about Lonnie Chisenhall, Iron Man, in your mind, that his favorite baseball player is you, and his favorite movie is Dumb and Dumber? I was trying to tie the two together, and I'm thinking there is no tie-in. Correct?
Well, I like that movie a lot.
That's great.
And his favorite day in baseball might be this one right here.
Yes.
3-run homer, part of a 4-run fourth.
There's the workhorse, Shaw's numbers. Got 2 outs in last night's game, but gave up a home run to Brock Holt.
Hanley Ramirez held in check today after a couple of doubles in game 1. He struck out twice, both looking, and is grounded out. This offensive machine, which has been the Boston Red Sox, not hitting on all cylinders by any means here in the first 2 games. Look at these numbers in the first 2 games for the team that led in virtually every offensive department, not just in the American League, but in all of baseball.
Well, Cal knows this better than I do, but offenses sometimes can be very streaky on your team, and occasionally you go through a bad stretch. You just hope it doesn't last too long.
Yeah, I always thought it was easier to hit on a winner. Pitchers keeping you in the ball game. You're leading most of the time, so you just go up there and stay within yourself. When you go through a rough stretch, you start losing or you fall behind, then you tend to want to do more than you're capable of, and you start to get yourself into a slump, expand the strike zone.
Oh, wow. What a play by Napoli. The big guy looking nimble over there for the second out.
Hanley hits a pretty hard ground ball down the line, and you're not playing him over there. But Knapp goes over, dives, and catches it. Still gets up and beats it to the bag.
That ball was almost past him, Ronnie.
I'm not saying this is happening, but some of his old teammates on the Red Sox bench are probably saying, come on, come on.
Probably for the second time today, too. He had that ball that went off his glove and ricocheted to Kipnis on a 4-3-1 putout. Indians are an out away from a 2-0 lead in a best-of-5. Xander Bogaerts, 1 for 3. Shaw, the American League leader in appearances, with 75 in the regular season, making his second in as many nights. Swing and a miss by Bogaerts. In the air to center field, Rajai Davis squeezes it. The Indians have shut out the Red Sox and have moved a game away from the American League Championship Series. Next stop, Fenway.
Well, that's the first postseason shutout for the Cleveland Indians since Game 1 of the ALDS in 2001. Winning pitcher, Bartolo Colon.
We had that discussion about momentum. Does it exist in a series or not? But witnessing it right now, you can tell there's a confidence. They didn't have much experience going in the postseason, but they're getting it quick.
They have beaten Boston's best in the first 2 games of this series.
Well, that's really where it comes, is that we thought the edge was going to be so huge for the Red Sox in their starting pitching, but both Porcello and David Price had some of their worst starts.
Sam Ryan on the field. Sam.
With Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie, your first home run against a lefty all year, and it's David Price in the ALDS. After he gave up 3 straight hits, what did you see?
You know, he's difficult, but he's around the zone, so you try to be aggressive, and you know, you save up that big hit off a lefty for the postseason, and you know, guys in front of me did a great job, and you know, got him out of the game early.
I know Terry liked you for your defense. A lot of balls going your way. This was an earlier start with the shadows and the sunlight there. How difficult was it early on?
Yeah, the first 3 innings were going to be tough. Fortunately, I didn't get a ball. So, you know, we've been working on that, you know, communication between the second baseman and the center fielder. And, you know, we didn't have to go through that today. We have some crazy game times coming up, so we'll have to work with it.
Corey Kluber, 10 days rest, playing behind him today. How'd he look to you?
It's always fun playing behind Corey. You know, there's usually not too much going on. He's our workhorse. He was great today. You know, maybe a little bit of rust, but everybody saw what he did.
2-0 series lead. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Guys, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sam. Talk about all smiles here in Cleveland, Ohio on an 80-degree day in October. And they turn up the heat on Boston. Final score 6-0 Cleveland over the Red Sox for Ron Darling. Cal Ripken, Sam Ryan, the rest of the crew. This is Ernie Johnson saying good night from Cleveland and inviting you to stay tuned for the postseason show on TBS presented by the Lincoln Motor Company. TBS, your exclusive home for the American League postseason. We'll see you at Fenway on Sunday.